What happens when a kid gets uprooted across country, loses confidence, gets bullied, and almost quits everything he loves? For Zac Cunningham, that moment became the start of a 14-year journey that changed his life forever. From walking into the Gracie Academy as a nervous teenager who didn't want to be there to becoming one of the youngest Gracie University instructors in the world, Zac shares how Jiu-Jitsu gave him confidence, purpose, and a sense of belonging when he needed it the most. In this episode, we talk about overcoming self-doubt, earning trust before you believe in yourself, learning from world-class mentors, and why giving yourself permission to step into the role can change everything. This conversation isn't just about jiu-jitsu, it's about growth, resilience, leadership, and all becoming who you were always capable of being. This is Zac Cunningham on the Kumite Lifestyle Podcast. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Kumite Lifestyle, and today we are joined by none other than Zac Cunningham, joining us all the way out in California, rocking out his amazing Gracie Survival Tactics hoodie. So, Zac, how's it going, bro?
Man, life is good. Can't complain. Thank you for having me on, man. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be on.
Absolutely. And a couple months ago when I had this idea, I literally made it's almost like a wish list. I'm thinking, man, like who would I love to have on this show? And I knew like jujitsu and like anything, right? I'm kind of a white belt in this stage right now, but I definitely had you on and I remember reaching out to you like probably back in September, like, hey, if you get some time, I'd love to have you on. And you were all for it. Things I always appreciate your positive energy, but fast forward, it's December and here we are, and I'm just super
Yeah.
stoked to have you on. So Zac, let me start off with this. What what major life events have happened in your life now? So for those watching, because we met a while back, and I'll kind of get into that, but I kind of want to frame it as like what's going on in Zac's life now that can kind of get this interview starting off pretty good.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, these days right now, I've been doing jujitsu for almost 14 years, which is just unbelievable. It's just the time has flown and it's
Yeah.
really a big part of my life. I think it always has been since I started. But especially these days, I'm, teaching and, trying to train 6 days a week. Teaching 6 days a week for sure. Maybe let's just say training like 4 to 5 of those days a week, and just living that full jujitsu lifestyle. And then on top of that, personal life wise, I got married almost 2 years ago, and we did this whole immigration battle with USCIS and the whole deal trying to get my wife to come here. And we're about to finish it, and she's about to come here on January 1st. So it's super, super exciting. So everything's just kind of coming together, and I just feel blessed, man. I feel blessed.
Yeah, absolutely. And congrats to you getting married. I remember when I saw you post that, and dude, that's just awesome. Yeah, and just to see your progression over the years. So you mentioned that you've been doing jujitsu now for 14 years. So I want to kind of start off with that, where for the viewers out there, jujitsu is a martial arts based, and Zac, like myself, we've been very fortunate to be able to not only train jujitsu but also give back to an art that's has given us so much. But just for everyone out there watching, my first memory of you was actually at a seminar in New Jersey. I'm not sure if you remember.
Of course, yeah, I remember that
Yeah,
one.
because you came with heat on and you were a blue belt at the time, and some of my training partners were like, "Oh yeah, that Zac, he's one of heat on's instructor." But and I was just amazed by not only your ability to articulate and teach, but just your age, because I think a lot of times when people think of instructors or coaches or even mentors, we think they have to be like, I don't want to say old, but at a certain
Yeah.
point. And but yeah, so I remember meeting you, like super friendly. I think we took I don't know if we took a picture that day, but I remember years later, Torrance, we took a picture, which I'll share with everyone once this is up. But yeah, I remember us meeting and just I was just blown away by your professionalism, Zac, and everyone at the time and even now. I just had a lot of great things to say about you. And the thing that really stood out was, from what I understand, you were the youngest Gracie University instructor at the time.
Yeah.
Let's kind of start off with that. Man, so you've been teaching for a while now, and you're the youngest instructor in the room. What has that got to be like?
It was pretty crazy, man. I mean, I started jiu-jitsu in 2012. I did a full year, and I loved being there. I just loved hanging out, in the building. And my little brother was taking the kids classes, and I liked that they played dodgeball. So I just wanted to kick the dodgeballs at my little brother, to be honest. That's really how it sparked like me wanting to help out. And then of course it turned into so much more. But man, I started helping out with kids like a year in my journey. So really, I've been teaching kids and being around the kids classes since 2013. Um, I was just always there, always in the building. Started as an intern and just kind of worked my way up. And then one day when I was 17, it was like Alex Ueda's class, and they're like, "Yo, Alex is stuck in major traffic, and he's not gonna make it. You know, he's just not gonna make it. Like you got to step up, you got to do the thing." And I was like, "Holy cow! All right, let's go." And you just kind of go with it. And then that was already 10 years ago, and then it turned into like my class because the schedule just couldn't accommodate, and it just became like so much more over the years. And I guess all I can really say is like I'm just grateful I had the people around me that I had. You know, like I had really good mentors and role models. When you look at like, of course, Henner and Hedon and Brian Ortega and Alex Ueda, Alex Stewart, Sam, like these guys that would teach. I just since day one being around those guys, I was kind of like, man, these guys are just awesome human beings and awesome people, and great men. And I just want to be like that. So like let me just be around these guys and learn as much as I can and just be as much like them as I can possibly be, along with like being myself too. And that's it, man. It's just been a great journey. Super, super grateful for it.
I love it, dude. And you said a couple of things I think that can really resonate with those watching. You had a lot of great mentors, like you said, and kind of just drawing from the inspiration. And I think when we do anything in life, especially when we're around like-minded people, but especially those that come before us, it's kind of natural that we kind of gravitate towards them. And yeah, man, you are definitely lucky, as they say, and grateful to be able to not only teach, but teach, where you are now, which is out in Torrance with, legendary figures, if you will. And in your own right, you're essentially climbing that ladder as you have been, and you're going to be kind of that legend status too, because I know a lot of people look up to you, especially the kids, and I know that you're one of probably the best bully proof instructors out there, and you don't have to take my word for that, anyone that knows you. So
Thank
um
you, bro.
absolutely. And so, correct me if I'm wrong. Did you start at age 12 or 13?
I started at 13, but even saying 13 is kind of like cheating because I was about to turn 14 in like 3 weeks.
Gotcha.
So 13 sounds good, but really it was more like 14.
I gotcha. Yeah. All right. So 13 or 14. But yeah, so what was it? So what was going on in your life at that time that made you want to start jujitsu? So I know you kind of talked kind of briefly about teaching, which we'll get into, but let's talk about like why you initially started and what was going on in your life because man, I remember so I started my martial arts at 6, and there's like different versions and different phases of life that we go through, and sometimes we kind of have to like sit back and like remember like man, like what was I going through at that time of why I started. And everyone's reasons is different, but I'm kind of fascinated to know because seeing where you are now, when you started at 13, was that something, did you do jiu-jitsu because that's something that you wanted to do or something that your parents were like, no, I think you could benefit from this?
Yeah, bro, it's actually pretty crazy. My dad is also Air Force or was also Air Force. So we moved around the country a lot, and we were living in New Hampshire for 6 years because it's tax free. And he was stationed at Hanscom Air Force Base in Massachusetts. Um, and we had to move. We had to move to California. He got stationed at LAAFB over here in El Segundo. And I was like doing good in school in New Hampshire. Like I felt like I had a good set of friends, and like I was in honor roll classes. I was very athletic. I was good at baseball and football. And just this big move happened all of a sudden across the country when I was like 13 years old. And it was just a huge culture shift. Everything kind of changed. And pretty much immediately I got bullied like right away. Like once I started school in eighth grade. And it was just it was different. It was different for sure. It was kind of like the town itself. It's very like rich community, kind of like posh posh.
Hmm.
And it was crazy. Like we're in eighth grade and these kids are making fun of me for like renting instead of owning a house, or like the shoes, wearing the same pair of shoes every single day, or wearing like the same pair of jeans or like certain clothes, and really just like bother me and confuse me.
Sure.
Um, and I quit all my sports. I was afraid to play baseball in California because California is like the best of the best at baseball. So
Yeah.
I was an all-star in New Hampshire, but I'm like, dude, New Hampshire baseball compared to California baseball, like I shouldn't even try. So I like quit all the sports. I'm getting bullied in school. Um, Started like eating a lot and like gaining a lot of weight. And my parents just are seeing this decline. And they're like, man, what do we do?
Yeah.
Um, so my dad looked at the website, like just literally researched Gracie Jiu-Jitsu on Google and found the website and was like, oh man, the world headquarters is right here. Like, let's bring him in. And
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it at all. I was like, so like, man, there's no way I'm ever gonna like this or ever gonna do it. And I was so stubborn. I was like crying at the front desk. Um, they give me the gi. I'm like, what are these pajamas? Like, this is ridiculous. I was so upset. And it was Martin Luther King's Day as well. So it was like a day off from school. And like, I just wanted to enjoy my day off. And I was like in such a bad mood. Um, and we went to the academy. It was Gracie Academy at the time on Artesia.
Yeah.
It was Monday. And so the 6:30 class is on and they're sparring. And I remember there's Oscar. I don't know if you know Oscar.
I don't think so.
Oscar is like a black belt here. That he's just been around forever. You
Yeah.
know, it's really, really good. And Oscar was a purple belt at the time, and he's just like tuning people up, like sparring. Like he's just like going for it, like just it must have been his hard roll day. I don't even know. And my parents and I were all just looking at each other like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna die! Like I'm gonna die. It's over. It's done. Like what are we gonna do?" And my mom's freaking out, like, "What'd you just sign him up for?" To my dad, and it was just a whole mess. But then 8 p.m. started, and it was combatives, and
Mm.
yeah, I just fell in love. It was so chill. It was class five, punch block series 1 through 4, guillotine choke, and just everything switched. Like I just had the most fun time. It made the most sense, the most jujitsu type of lesson you could have, like doing punch block series, like being on the bottom of the fight and being able to survive. And I'm like, this is unbelievable. It's just mind blowing. And I remember with things like football, when I was having a hard time, like in the training camp as a kid, my parents like, hey, just stick it out for like a month, and like we'll get you the sweatshirt or something. Like we'll get you something like, like just to motivate me to stay. And I remember immediately, like that was kind of the same deal. Like I liked a sweatshirt up at the front, and they're like, yeah, if you just stick with this jujitsu for a month, like we'll get you the sweatshirt. They're just trying to get me to stay. And I
Yeah.
remember immediately that night, I was like, I don't need it. Like I'm just here. Like this is it. It's
Yeah.
done. I love this. I don't want this taken away. Like I'm fully, fully in. Yeah, and it's just never been the same since.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. And I didn't realize that so I knew a little bit about so you said so your dad was in the Air Force, and if I remember correctly, you were also living in Delaware
That's
at
right.
that point. Yeah, so I'm from Delaware myself. I'm not born and raised here, but I've been here since I was 3, so pretty much I was raised here. But I remember when you said that way back, I said, "Wow, that's awesome." So you've been around all over the place, and that's one of the things that jujitsu gives a lot of people, especially given the opportunity, is that ability to travel, which I know that you've done like many many times. But man, that's awesome how you were going through this kind of phase in your life, this kind of awkward, version of yourself.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, dude, just I think anyone getting bullied sucks. And I'm just gonna say that here. And it's unfortunate that you had to go through that, for any kid or any human being, because it happens all the time. But you used that experience when you said about bullying, and now I know that kind of resonates a lot when you teach, the
Yeah.
Gracie Bully Proof, because it's like you're not just teaching it, but you're living almost like not past trauma, if you will, but past experiences, because you know what it's like and you don't want, students to feel that way. So that's awesome in
100%.
that sense. So like I'm just using the connection principle to kind of bridge on why you're so good at what you do. And then you talked about your first class, Punchbox Series Stage 5, which those are watching, that's probably, it's funny because we say every lesson's our favorite lesson or the lesson, but
Yeah.
it's so true. But yeah, that's a good one. So for those watching, log into gracieuniversity.com and check it out. Or of course, find a nearby CTC. So a little plug out there for all of our CTC friends. So awesome stuff. And then you said you were kind of motivated by a hoodie, but you
Yeah.
realized like, man, like I'm good to go. So like I don't need one. So in those early days, Zach, when you were training consistently, tell us what was a typical class like?
Yeah, I think, not much has even changed since now. Like it was combatives. Like it's just the beginner program we have at Gracie University. Um, where, if it's your first day, you do your 10-minute intro, just get a little light introduction to it. If it's not, then you go do review. Now we have it at least at headquarters, where you do like a solo preview with the instructor if you haven't
Yeah.
seen the class before. So it's kind of cool. You could do that. And then the class starts, you do your standing move, and then we go to the ground, we do a couple moves on the ground. That's just how every combatives class is situated. And I feel like, these days too, it's even more fun where it's just we're kind of like almost doing some isolated sparring, where it's like we'll really do it safe, of course, but just kind of test out the move and kind of feel like, man, what would the bad guy actually do here? And like, where do we have to like be set and be ready? And even if you lose, it's just, you're learning and it's so safe. It's just amazing, man. Yeah. So I don't think much has changed. Um, it wasn't like OG Carson, to my understanding, where it's like you have these guys that were before me, like first class, they jump right into sparring, like it's definitely changed and it's more curriculum based and just safe. And I think at the time, that's really what I needed. It's really, really, really what I needed. And I feel like it's really what most people need, when they first start this journey.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things to kind of unpack there where you just said, because jujitsu is jujitsu, of course, but for anyone that's really been doing it for a while, or for those kind of on the fence or not sure, I think most people, and again, I don't want to speak in absolutes, but when they walk into a jujitsu academy or jujitsu gym or club, whatever it is, I want to believe that self-defense is the reason why they're there.
Yeah.
No one I know, at least the students that I've seen, no one comes in saying I want to be a world champion. It's just not a thing. And I've heard other podcast interviews saying like, "Oh, we've had students do that." Again, I don't know. It could just be their own projection, but and you said so, like, yourself, and us being around that curriculum, I can't think of any other organization or any other kind of business facet, if you will, that has the model of where safety, structure, and self-defense in this sense is guaranteed every class. And kind of going back to what you said on your first day when you're sitting with your parents, you're watching these two guys grapple. It is chaotic. It's like, man, what is this? And like, there's so much processing, going on in your mind, but people think that's what jujitsu is. It's just this physical violence grappling, or as we've heard it, just two guys on top of each other. But
Right.
obviously, we know that's not the case. So, as an instructor now, because I kind of want to talk, like, I um, kind of want to pivot on that. How do you best, and this might be tough because I struggle at it sometimes because I know how great jujitsu is for me and how great it is teaching. But when someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, Zach, I know you do that jujitsu or that karate stuff, but like, what exactly is that? Like, how do you explain what you love so much to the average person? Because I struggle with that sometimes.
Yeah, man. I mean, honestly, at that point, I just tell them to come show up, like come hang out with my work. I'll show you like work, right? But yeah, come hang out. And I'll show you everything. Like I'd much rather, or better if they're in the building for sure, try to give an intro, like 10-minute intro, kind of explains everything that we have going on, the sense of, what jujitsu is and like why jujitsu is what it is, and then the community behind it and just how it works and how it goes on forever. It's really just, I guess to explain it, it's just leverage based, amazing techniques, no strength required, and it just goes on forever. Like it's just infinite. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. That's to me, that's like one of the most exciting parts about jujitsu is that it just never ends. Like ever. It's gonna go forever. There's 1,000 moves now. 50 years from now, there might be like 3,000 or 5,000 because it's just gonna keep going. It's cool, man. It's
Yeah.
super cool. The
That
puzzle that never ends.
Yeah, and it just it's one of those things also too, just to add on to what you said, jujitsu, at least for most people from what I've heard, is it's forces you to be present.
Yeah.
It's like no matter what's going on in your personal life, or if there's bills that need to be paid, when you're on the mat, especially when you're grappling or even just drilling, it takes you to a place where you have to be so locked in. And I think that's amazing about what we do. And just, we see the everyday people come in, the shy person, or because just walking through the door, man, that's the biggest. I think I think that in itself, when a student can walk through the door and kind of overcome that fear and then be on the mat, there's so many layers that they just overcame to be in
Yeah.
the first class. And sometimes as instructors, it's easy for us to forget that because we know what it's like to walk through the door, just, like, put your kimono on, like, yeah, come on, just come on the mat. but it's not like that for everybody. So as
Right.
instructors, man, it's like I always have to like remind myself, like because I forget what it feels like to be a white belt, and I'm sure sometimes that's the case for
Yeah.
you. But a lot of that is, and you said so your best, yeah, just come in, just try a class, and the way you present it and just being friendly because people will do what people like them are doing. I've heard that so many times from my instructor Howard Steele, and I think it's so true. And I think what you guys, what we have to offer Gracie University, that model is impeccable. So Zach, I'm curious now. So you started at 13 or 14, like you
Yeah.
said, and you kind of got roped into teaching. I said almost accidentally because the instructor, I think it was Alex, you said. Um, was late. And then, so when did you realize, like, man, I love training, but teaching is what I'm called to do? Like, at what point did you kind of have that realization or that, self-talk, if you will?
Yeah, it was pretty quick, you know what I mean? Like, of course, I was doing jiu-jitsu for a year. I got in, I was like, hey, can I just help out with the kids' classes because my little brother is here and I'm just here anyways, and I love being here. Um, and once I really started doing that, like a year later or a year into the journey, it was pretty fast. I was like, man, this is what I want to do. Like, this is
Yeah.
just awesome. I'm really enjoying it. And then, as time passed, I'm just kind of building my way up. I was just always there, every single kids class. And then I got my first private student. And then from there, maybe, I don't know, let's say 3 years later, that's when the whole like Alex stuck in traffic thing happened. And I was already around like a lot and
Yeah.
learning from him. So I think I was able to step up, but it was pretty wild.
Yeah, absolutely. And um, did you start teaching kids first, or did you kind of gradually become an assistant in the adult class, Gracie Combative? So, um, yeah, so talk us through that. What program specifically did you start teaching? Because I know you're amazing at the Bulletproof program, and I know there for a while at every ICP, which is the instructor certification program held every January and July. But I remember sitting in on one of your classes. This was a few years ago, and I just saw the electrifying like magnitude of your positivity and how well the kids received you. So was was that kind of what you started off with first was the kids class and then you later transitioned to the adult class?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it was pretty much, yeah, kids first, and then I was in combatives for a while. I was in combatives for like maybe 2 years, and then I started doing master cycle as a kid too,
Yeah.
when I was about like 15 or so.
Yeah.
And maybe once I was like a blue belt, that's when I started like just hanging out in combatives, like just being a number three. Like everything was so, how would I explain that? It wasn't like I was like on the books, you know what I mean? It's just like, hey, Zach's just here. Like I'm just kind of showing up no matter what. Like I was
Yeah.
just probably the annoying kid that would never leave. You know what I mean? Like I'm just here, just hanging out as much as I can. I know, like in the summers, like I had to have no school, so my dad would like take a lunch break and take my mom out to lunch and drop me off at jiu-jitsu. It was it. And I'll just spend the whole day there until they pick me up at night. Um, and it's just, yeah, it's just always been that way. But for sure, yeah, I started with kids first and just honestly, I just hung out and learned as much as I could, like just being around the guys. And
Yeah.
then when those opportunities came up, there was never a moment in my life where they're like, okay, Zach, you're ready, do the class. It was always kind of like a, man, they're stuck in traffic, or, like they're super sick and nobody can come and cover. Like you're here, like go. And it
Yeah.
was just how I kind of built it up, you
Yeah.
know, and I
I,
was
I,
just ready.
yeah, so like I'm curious about like that pivot real quick about like they didn't ask you but you just so happened to be there. I wonder, Zach, if that was ever part of their plan, you
I
know?
don't know. I can't confirm or deny for
Yeah.
sure.
But
I'll say this though, during that first kids class for sure. I remember like because in the old building, right, you had the big mat and then you had this hallway.
yeah.
You did the Artesia one, right?
Unfortunately, I have not. No.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, so you have this hallway and so there's the lobby, you go kind of like this way, and then you go down the hallway, and to the left is like the locker rooms and everything. And then there's just this opening to the big mat. And there were these posters like of Elio Gracie and like the magazine of Elio Gracie. And I remember I'm like teaching this class and I see Henner like in the reflection of the Elio poster, like watching and like evaluating and like kind of like taking some mental notes. I'm like, shoot, he's watching me right now. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't even know I can see him in the reflection from the poster, but it's crazy. Yeah. So I mean, who knows? Maybe it was all planned. But I can't confirm or deny.
Yeah, yeah. No, for sure. Like I was just kind of thinking out loud there. It'll kind of make for a good story if it was that case.
Right.
But regardless, you're out there teaching. They obviously saw something in you, Zach. Because I mean, I've been around GU enough to know, especially at headquarters, that they're not just going to put anyone out there. So whether it's by accident or design, you were already there and you already had a trust with the students, especially with the kids. And that's ultimately what people want. They want to feel loved, they want to feel heard. And when you have an instructor out there that can give them that, why wouldn't you want to, push them to the front, if you will? But of course, that gradual state has to exist. A lot of times, we just make the assumption like, oh, you're here all the time. You're like, you can teach, you can help. And that's not the case at all because not everyone is designed to teach, or at least not in the beginning. And that's why
Yeah.
we have such a rigorous certification to become instructors. So for those watching, for Gracie University, it's not just like, hey, you're a blue belt, you get to teach, or purple belt. No, you like if you're at a own certified training center or even, GU headquarters, you have your main instructors, of course, and then you have your assistants. And it's kind of like you see a little similarities in all the instructors from what I've noticed. And if there's one common denominator. It's like they want to teach. There's no one out there, at least from I've seen, like, oh, I gotta go teach someday. Now, of course, we're all human, so I get that we're always not gonna want to be there. But I remember Henner saying best one time, like, if you can't put your A game on when you're teaching, like you're not qualified to be out there that day.
Yeah.
Because one student's bad experience, just because you decided to not show up, that could be detrimental. And so going back to what I said, like obviously they saw something in you, and here you are today. Um, Zach, what challenges have you faced as an instructor? Let's start off with kids and then kind of start, if you can, talk us talk with us through that transition, for teaching adults, because that's two different worlds. And a lot of people say kids are hard to teach, but I've heard some people say adults are hard to teach. So I'm curious, like, what has that been like for you, Zach?
Yeah, I think with with kids, there was there's always a sense of connecting with kids was easy because I was the kid teaching the kids. So it was very easy to connect. Um,
Yeah,
but it was very hard for me to drop the hammer. That was a lesson I had to really learn because it was almost like I was too fun. I let too much go.
yeah,
And I had to like have some balance there where it's not just like fun all the time. It's hey, we have to earn this fun. I mean, we have to focus. We have to make sure nobody's getting water while I'm teaching the middle of the class, the slice. So that was a big battle for me for a while there where, Henner and Sam too, they would just be like, man, drop the hammer. Like, don't let so much go. You know what I mean? And I
yeah,
was like, oh, but maybe the kids won't like me. Maybe it'll be, you know, like something wrong there. But once I started dropping the hammer, the focus was there, and the parents, like, I've never had a complaint.
yeah.
Obviously, don't drop the hammer crazy, but like, you know what I mean? Something like, hey, let's sit down. Hey, let's focus. Like, just little hammer drops sometimes to really make sure the class is engaged and focused. It's necessary. It's
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think when it comes to teaching kids, we don't want to be mean in that sense, meaning like
yeah,
we don't want to mess up. And for those like if you've ever taught any sport, especially youth, a lot of the pressure is sometimes not even teaching the kids, it's the parents watching
100%.
because we feel like, man, they're judging us, like, or maybe I'm not good. So maybe it's a little bit of imposter syndrome where we feel like I don't deserve to be out there. But you said so your best. Once you started putting that hammer down, you realize that the parents were on your side because the parents would not have brought their kids there or their families if they didn't trust in you.
Exactly.
And that's a lesson that I've had to learn over the years too, where now it's like, no, like I know how to run a class, I know how to teach, just like you do. And like when you command that room, like you'll be amazed how people are like, wow, like this guy can teach, or like it's been reassuring for me over the years where sometimes I'm looking at the audience because I'm always observing whether it's the kids or whether I'm assisting Howard or another instructor. I watch the kids, I watch the instructor, but I also watch the parents, right, to kind of, see what they're doing. And a lot of times is I've noticed that when they're kind of looking down at their phone or looking at a book or something, it's not that they don't care, but they're relaxed because
Yeah,
because
that's
I
a good point.
noticed because I noticed that when they're like constantly watching or like even standing up, which thankfully has not happened for me in a very 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 long time, but I've seen other instructors or even helpers come out and they're trying to teach and their parents are just like watching them, and then I realized like, oh, like I can like I understand both ways, right? Because they want to make sure their kids are good, but once they feel that their kids are safe, they relax because it's like
Yeah,
45 minutes to an hour that they can get to themselves. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah, it's a good perspective. It's a good way to look at it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yep. And now adults. So when did you start teaching adults? Because I remember listening to a podcast you did with Robbie Singh. So shout out to
Oh,
him,
yeah.
CDC Burwood out there in Australia. And I remember and even we had a conversation very briefly in passing saying like that transition to teaching adults was tough for you. And I'm
Hard.
curious, like why was it tough for you, Zach? Because you're used to teaching in front of kids, which I understand because the age, because you're very similar in age in that sense, like you said. But what was that obstacle, if you will?
Yeah, I think it had to do with just a big part was like growing into a man. You know what I mean? Like I was very young.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like I had any authority over these adults, you know? And it was a weird transition for me. I mean, I remember that same trip that we were talking about earlier, the seminar in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
We also went to Pennsylvania before.
Yeah.
And I remember like there was a guy there that like wanted me to sign his purple belt. And I was a blue belt at the time. And I was like, man, is this even legal? Like I asked Hedon, like, are you sure this feels crazy? And he was
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's okay. Like just go. And I don't know. Like, so for example, in that case, I was like, okay, I have permission. Like, I guess I can do this, you know? So it was almost like this authority was given to me, but I didn't feel like I had the permission to even use it, maybe. I don't know. It was very difficult. And to be this young guy, like way younger than these combative students, I was
Yeah.
like, man, I don't know. It was a big challenge. And then I just remember one day I don't even know why it happened, but Henry was like, bro, you have full permission. Like he literally said that to me, quote unquote. Like you have full permission. Like this is your home, this is your school. Like, you know, we trust you to run it. Like, just do it. You know what I mean? Like you got it. It's gonna be okay. And I remember even in like my early 20s, I'd be teaching up there with like doing combatives and especially with Henry, like I'd be so nervous and like my voice was cracking while teaching, and I'm like, oh, this is a disaster.
Yeah.
Um, and then I don't know, I think it's just like repeat. You're just gonna get better and better as you go. And now it's just I'm past it. You know, I've probably been past that for 6 years now. But I think it was just kind of growing up and giving myself permission to be like, all right, I can actually do this, and like, you know, they appreciate they appreciate like what I'm trying to do here. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They appreciate what I'm trying to do, and they respect me. Like I need to start respecting myself. Like I
Oh,
need to tell myself like, man, I'm qualified. Like literally the best in the world are telling me like I'm qualified. What more do I need?
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like when am I gonna hit this point where I actually believe in myself that I'm qualified? Like that has to be a journey for me, you know? Um, and then I think we got there finally.
Yeah.
But it took
I,
a while. It was tough. It was tough.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And I just remember watching kind of like you kind of start phasing in into the Gracie combatives and watching you teach it. And I think a lot of it is, when you're under like um big shadows or big figures, if you will, and Henry Hedon, you know, I can understand how that when it's your turn to teach, it's like, all right, like everyone's used to watching Henry Hedon teach or these guys, it's like it's almost like what do I have to offer? Like why would anyone want to teach? But I've learned to that same degree. It's like no, like you are the man, and you're out there for a reason. And I've learned that people like and sometimes when students are watching, especially adults, you feel like they're judging you or they're kind of just like almost like monotone.
Yeah.
But sometimes they're not even paying attention to the lesson because there's so many things going on in their mind where I've learned just to focus on what you're teaching, and like I'm sure it's the same thing for you. But nah, man, like it's been awesome to see that transition and that you're doing so well with it. And then you mentioned about Henner basically giving you permission. Can you recall any amazing sound advice that they've given you over the years, or like maybe a quote or something that they said that really like pumped you up and something that you still live by today, which I'm sure there's so many life things that they've shared with you, but anything that kind of comes to mind right now, as far as teaching goes, something that kind of helps you kind of stay motivated when you're kind of like, oh my God, it's a big class today. I don't know how I'm going to do it. And then you hear that little voice, maybe pretend or heat on, or maybe any instructor. So what kind of keeps you motivated there, Zach?
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, dude, there's so many. There's so many different things. Um, I think, man, that's a deep question. It's a super deep question. I think it's just all the years, man, to be honest, of just again like that full permission of like, um, man, just go out, do your thing. Like we he said one time, I remember there was a student that was like kind of giving me a hard time.
Yeah,
This was another like thing that happened around that time, maybe 6 years ago, because now combatives is like dope. It's like I'm just teaching them like they're the kids too, and like we're just all having fun. It's great. And I finally pushed past that a while ago. But I remember there was a time where a student was giving me a hard time, and like there was something I like told them. I don't even remember the full context. I wish I remember better. But there was something I told them, and they just essentially didn't listen to me. And it was important. It was like they needed to really listen to me, like because I was running the class. It was like a safety issue or something like that.
sure.
And I had to tell Henner. And then Henner pulled him in the office with me. And it was just very much a conversation of like, you know, why aren't you listening to Zach? And it was because I wasn't that high up in rank, or like maybe I was like a blue belt or purple belt at the time, probably purple belt. And Henner's like, man, when you don't listen to Zach, like you don't listen to me,
Yeah,
because like Zach is me in that moment. Like I sent Zach to do the thing. Zach is representing me. You're not listening to me. And it clicked for the student. And when that happened too, like it really clicked for me where it's like, man, like these guys have my back, dude. Like of course, like I gotta keep working hard and like doing the thing. Um, but they really have my back and they've been so good to me over the years. And I think just that support system has really pushed me like, man, all right, like have some freedom. You know what I mean? Like I guess I've always had this tendency of like, um, being very harsh to myself, maybe like being my own worst critic. Like
yeah,
if I make a mistake, bro, I'm gonna punish myself more than anybody else ever will. You know what I mean? Where it's very much like a Zach only needs to hear it one time, and he's gonna fix it from there. So just to have that support and like, man, just be yourself and go. And there was another conversation with Henner too a while ago that said like he essentially said like, man, like as long as you don't do anything illegal and you just keep working hard, you're good. Like you're set for life. Like you're just gonna keep being here and like we'll take care of you and like keep working hard and don't do anything illegal and everything's gonna be okay. And that was like a really cool conversation to have too, where it's like, all right, like I'm good. Like, let me just keep doing my thing and staying on this good path, and we're good. So I think just that support for sure is very helpful, very motivational. Um, and yeah, man, it's great to have for sure.
yeah, absolutely. And I just, from what I'm hearing is just a lot of reassurance knowing that the people that you're working for, but the people that you look up to, they have your back 1,000%. And it's got to be comforting knowing that you can go into work and just know like, yeah, like I'm here because A, they trust me, and B, I know what to do, and C, like more importantly, I am the guy. So I
Yeah.
think that's awesome how it all kind of transcends not only in jujitsu but also in your personal life. So before we kind of jump into other facets aside from jujitsu, I want to kind of ask when you're training, Zach, because I know you're a brown belt now, and soon to be black belt sometime in the future, which I think is amazing.
Thanks, bro.
Absolutely. So explain like what's a typical training session like for you, because I know you teach and I know there's a fine balance there, but when you, let's say it's Monday, let's just say, do you have like certain goals in mind for your own progression, like and maybe like you're grappling a little bit hard this day or kind of going slow, so what's the learning curve for you right now?
Yeah, I think for me, there's a couple of things I'm kind of juggling here. It's if I'm leading, it's usually the day I go more chill. So Wednesday nights, I lead like almost the whole night, where I do like three kids classes and one combatives, and usually help assist master cycle. So on that night, I'm kind of like this chill, more flow roll. The days I don't assist, or I'm sorry, the days I don't lead, that's usually when I'll like roll a little bit more like higher pace, try to challenge myself and like let the gas tank go a little bit. Um, and then yeah, same. So really, those would be like Monday, Tuesday, sometimes Thursday. Um, and then Saturday is one of those days I usually go chill because I'm split, like kind of leading, kind of assisting. It just depends on the day too, and who's there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it just depends. So I'm rolling with private students too. And what I'm really trying to do is roll with Alex Stewart and Sam like as much as possible. And they just destroy me, but it's like making me better. Like I can just feel it like every single time. Like it's just like little clicks and learning, trying to learn their game, but also trying to like build up my game off of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Alex always says you can't study me and survive me at the same time, and
That's
I
a
think
good
it's
point.
very true.
Yeah.
It's like ridiculous. So I kind of gotta pick one, you know, depending
Yeah.
on the day and the role. But I'm trying to roll Alex and Sam every day, like as much as possible. And they've been so good to me, man. Um, you know, I'm a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu black or brown belt, but also like Stuart and Fernandez Jiu-Jitsu brown belt too. You know, like
Yeah.
they've had so much impact on me. Um, and then yeah, so just trying to find the best in the room. And then there's, these guys also that are just really good. Like the belt doesn't even matter, bro. Like you have these purple belts, like Brendan and Hawan and Matt Cruz. And these guys, they make me work, man. I'm not afraid to admit that. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Whereas like maybe they catch me sometimes, or maybe it's like just really scrappy. And when I'm feeling it, like I'll try to find those guys too, because I just know that again, they may be a purple belt, I'm a brown belt, but it's making me better.
Yeah.
It's making me better. So that's something important to chase. Then I also have this mindset where, because I started as a kid and, all these things like the reassurance, the teaching, the training jujitsu, like everything we're talking about is not now. Like this has been progression over 14 years, which is insane, but it's definitely been a lot of growth there. So as a kid starting, I felt like when I was 15 in Master Cycle, I was just getting tapped by everybody. And, I didn't have a choice. But it built up my defense, to a level where I feel very, very confident in my defense, but not as confident in my offense, like even still to this day.
Yeah.
So then there's that side of it where it's like, man, I want to roll with these guys that are like really, challenging me or like completely destroying me. But also I need to make sure I roll with like other people and not only like build up my offense, but also just like give people good roles and connect and touch the other master cycle students too. So there's that side of it as well.
Yeah.
Um, so really, I think I'm doing like one of those three things. Yeah, one of those
Absolutely.
three things.
Yeah, man. Yeah, thank you for
Oh,
sharing.
and
And there's a
and
lot
purple belt stripes. That's the fourth
that.
thing.
Oh
Purple
yeah.
belt stripe curriculum too.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
almost finished, but I'm juggling that as well, and that's more like research incentive.
Yep.
And that could even be tied into when I'm training with those, like other students and maybe even blue belts to build my offense, to connect, to give them a fun role, and kind of give back to the community, and also work those kind of research incentive kind of purple belt stripes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I love it. And like I love that breakdown. And something that you said that I don't think you appreciate this unless you're an instructor is that when you teach, especially 3 or 4 classes or all night, you don't realize how much energy that takes
It's real.
because yes, dude, it's 1,000% real. So I can appreciate the fact that you said on nights that you're teaching, it's kind of more slow and kind of more flow and more discovery based, if you will, or not discovery, maybe more experimental, if you will. But dude, that's so true because I'm the same way. If I'm teaching classes, especially when H is gone teaching GST, in my mind mentally, I'm like, all right, I already know how I'm gonna roll this night because of past experience. But especially if I've been teaching for like classes, 3 or 4 because it adds up. And then by the end of the night, man, like not physically tired, but I don't know what it is. But when you teach, when you're exerting a lot of words, I guess that is kind of physical. But yeah, there's a lot of energy that's used. So of course, staying
Real.
hydrated. But I love the fact that you said that, when you were rolling with Alex and Sam, that you can either study them or you can survive them. And that's so
Yeah.
true. And I never heard that analogy before. And I think that's fascinating where kind of I think a lot of times we kind of we're so fascinated by, you know, higher ups, if you will. Like it's almost like we want to be like them,
Yeah.
but we forget like, no, just be yourself in that sense, you know. It's kind of cliche, but that's awesome that you get a chance to work with you know, those high level guys. And then of course with Hawan and Brendan, I haven't had a chance to roll. Actually, I've never had a chance to roll with you yet. So I'll be out in
Really? Yeah.
January. So like I would love to like, you know, finally connect if you will. But
Do it.
yeah, yeah,
Every-
yeah. But I think the one thing I love about the Gracie University school, just because there's a lot of students, is the fact you have a lot of resources to a lot of different training partners. And like you said, so you like yourself, you know, whether you're kind of in the energy of just going slow or more just, you know, working on, you know, specific things like defense and offense. Because, bro, if there's one thing that I can say about any Grace University instructor at any CTC, for the most part, is our defense game is so sound.
Yeah.
And I've heard that from so many people. Like my buddy Joey just got his black belt um, this past weekend at the black belt test, and he was saying like as he came back, I said, "Man, like what was it like rolling with everyone?" And he was saying it was great, but he said, "Man, like you can tell who's a Gracie University pure student because their defense is so on point, you know."
Yeah, for sure.
So I think
Yeah.
that's kind of like the staple of what we do, you know, defend, defend, defend.
Right. And then once the opportunity opens, then you go 100%.
Yep.
Yeah, it has to be defense first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So real quick, also like, you know, speaking of grappling, have you ever competed before in jiu-jitsu? And, you know, for those that want to compete, because I know Grace University is strictly self-defense, but we don't discriminate, of course, because there's obviously
Right.
students in the network and instructors that compete all over, which I think is great. So, where does competition fit for you, Zach? And so it's a two question. So, when you compete, how does that fit, you know, for your kind of agenda or objective with jujitsu? And then, if someone ever does want to compete and they come to you, what's your advice there?
Yeah, I think I've definitely competed before. It's been a while now. It's probably been, I don't know, almost 5 years or maybe 4 years. That's crazy. But yeah, so probably 4 years ago. And it's definitely a different pace. It's I thought it would be good for me because, like I kind of said earlier, I grew up doing sports.
Yeah,
So I always had that kind of like competitive nature and mindset, I guess. And also, just being an instructor, I really wanted to make sure that my jujitsu is able to cater to all different types of people. So if I have somebody that comes in and wants to compete or is interested in competing, I can just kind of give them that actual experience I had. I wasn't a great competitor. I think a lot of the time I'd just lose by points or it'd just be a draw. Um, yeah, that's usually how it would go.
but you
But
didn't
I
get
mean,
submitted though.
very rare. Yeah, maybe a couple times. Yeah, maybe a couple times. But most of
Yeah.
the time it's just like 6 minutes and points and yeah, that's it. But yeah, it was cool. It's definitely a different energy. It's definitely someone trying to get you and hurt you in a sense.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's more aggressive, of course. It's I really think there's like full out street fight MMA fight, and then jujitsu competition. That's like the tiers.
Yeah.
So I think competing is a lot closer to that tier of like obviously MMA is a tier above because you have punches going, but there's still rules, and then street fights is just everything, no rules, crazy. But jujitsu is a lot closer to those higher tiers than people would like to think and admit.
Yeah.
So it's just different level of aggression. Um, I tell when people come to me and ask like should they do it, I ask, man, only if you want to, like if you want to, it's great. It's like I don't think it's a negative thing to feel, especially if you're quick to tap and like, you definitely don't want to get injured. So don't have an ego, be quick to tap if you get caught in something. Um, but it's cool to feel if you want to feel it or if you want to try it, go for it. And especially when someone's newer, I'll just be real with them and tell them like, man, GU is not a competition school. Like there might be another school that's better for you, which is no problem. It's just we're more focused on self-defense and that's pretty much it, man. And doing jiu-jitsu for life. Not that these other schools aren't, but it's definitely just higher pace, more intense and, you know, different mindsets.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said so your best you said so right now. It is just a mindset, right? It's how they're being taught. And it's really where they're at in their life too, because as we age, as our bodies kind of fatigue, if you will, those things that we wish that we could still do, like in our 20s, it just doesn't exist anymore. And it's not an absolute because there's obviously still older people out there that are still, very, very capable. But
Yeah,
yeah, I think that's awesome how you said, and I loved how you scaled that. There's street fight, UFC, and then jujitsu. I've never heard it in that sense before, so thank you for explaining that because it's so true. I mean, when you're competing, right, there's rules, and a lot of times people are competing for medals or
yeah,
money. It really does change. It can change someone's mindset, and safety might not be like their number one concern. You know what I mean? So.
for sure.
Yeah, but so just being able to recognize that, man, that's awesome. So we've talked about your jujitsu career as a kid and teaching and kind of those lessons that you've learned and also about your goals of like where you are now as far as your training goes. So I want to kind of stick to jujitsu real quick and how it's been a vehicle and a vessel for you, for your travels. You recently just went to Thailand, and I'm just going to
Yeah,
put that out there. I think that's amazing. I was born in Thailand, so whenever I hear someone say that, I always get like instantly like drawn in, like, dude, you went to Thailand. That's great. I just had a recent guest. She went to Thailand for 3 months and she loved it. So, man, what was that experience like for you? And why did you even go to Thailand?
yeah, man, it's so crazy. So it's a crazy story, but I wish we could have done more jujitsu over there. I didn't get to even get a chance. It was just so busy over there. But
There's a
yeah, Thailand.
CTC in Thailand, right? Sorry, not to cut you off, but there's a
Oh, you're
CTC.
good. Yeah, you're right. There is. I couldn't make it over. I
Gotcha.
couldn't make it over. It was just so busy. We
Yeah.
were just in Bangkok. We were there for like 3 weeks, and it was awesome, man. It was really, really nice. Like amazing food, amazing people, beautiful, just like nature, like even in the city, a lot of traffic. But I mean, any big city has that. And it
Yeah.
was it was nice, man. It was cool. We were there, man. Yeah, long story short, with all the immigration stuff with my wife, um, we had an interview there instead. Like we did the, you know, whole United States interview there. And she's not from Thailand, she's from Mexico, but we were able to transfer our case to the embassy in Bangkok because Mexico is so backlogged. Like it was just so, heavily backlogged that she probably wouldn't come home until September 2026 or maybe even October 2026 if we didn't change something. Um, so I reached out to all these embassies around the world, and I hit up like 9 embassies before the one in Bangkok, Thailand, and they were the one that said yes, we'll accept your case, and they were just awesome for us and super nice to us. And it was a great trip, big success, but it was just so much like paperwork and interview prep, and also just spending time with my wife because we've been needing that time. It's been challenging the past couple years.
Sure.
Um, it took away from going to jujitsu.
Yeah. Yeah. So, when people talk about travels, whether they're, doing solo traveling or traveling with their significant other, the thing that I always hear that's pretty consistent on is kind of the cultural differences and kind of how you have a much more, I guess, greater appreciation for perhaps the life that you have now, where you're from. So I'm curious, while that whole process was happening and you're over there in Thailand or in any country, but I'm just going to stick to Thailand, of course, right now, just for conversation's sake. But what were some things that, maybe cultural differences or things kind of that you weren't expecting prior to getting there that, man, you left said, wow, I didn't realize this about that country or this about, the people over there.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think honestly, I kind of knew going into it that Thailand was going to be beautiful and like Thai people are really, really nice. I thought it was cool. Well, not it was sad, right? That the queen mother passed away while we were there.
Mm,
I was kind of it was very different to just see that, I guess, because one, like, I'm from a democracy, right? Like America. So just different governments, it's interesting, but also just like how much that royal family is very just appreciated and like a big piece of Thailand culture because what happened with us was we were there, everything was like, normal. We went to Singapore, and even in Singapore, we're like, dude, we're excited to go back to Thailand. Like we did Singapore, like all the stuff pretty quick. Like Singapore's kind of small. We're like, man, Thailand just there's something about it. Like it just feels like home. Like I don't even know why it feels like home,
Yeah.
or not even from Thailand, but it just feels like I want to go back home to Thailand, not home to, you know what I mean? So it was weird. I don't know why we both felt that way in Singapore, but while we were in Singapore, the Queen Mother passed, and it was crazy how everything changed, and there's just so much respect. Like it was so cool to see, even though it was a sad situation, that there's all these rules. Like, yeah, the government's gonna go in a year of mourning, and for 60 days, like citizens should wear all black. If you're a tourist, like we understand, but you should be considerate and like also try to wear black or neutral colors. Um, I remember like they had these like ribbons out, like these black ribbons for the Queen Mother. And we're like, oh, cool. Like, let's grab a couple of those for our interview because we have interviews with like Thai people as well at the embassy. So we just wanted to be respectful. And we're wearing the black ribbons, and it was cool to see, I guess, just respect. You know what I mean? I guess that's what I'm trying to say
Yeah.
is that they just have like so much respect for that royal family and also for life itself and the impact you can have with life, I think. And everything was just kind of shut down. They closed down festivals. They closed down like a couple other things for a little bit there, like maybe some like stores and just events that were happening. In the temples, they like in the royal palace, they had her at rest.
Mm.
You get all these Thai citizens coming in to like visit, and we just happened to go there that day. They
Yeah.
they closed the royal palace for I think it was like 30 days from, or no, it wasn't 30 days. It wouldn't make sense. Maybe it was like 15 days, 15 days from when she passed. And we are like, man, we might not even be able to see it. But on our last day in Thailand, they opened it and we were able to see it. And all these people were coming in, like wearing all black and paying respects. And it was cool to see. Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. It's life-changing in a sense, because you're over there for a specific reason and then something else happens out of our control or out of your control, I'm sorry. But yeah, Zach, I wonder, like, and it kind of happens probably naturally for you now, how much jujitsu that you used in situations like that. Because when we think of jujitsu, most people think it's just the physicality, the joint locks, the submissions. But, the longer you do it, you can use jujitsu in every facet of your life. So when
Yeah.
you're traveling, right? Because Henry just wrote the book of the 32 Principles. So kind of maybe like an offset question for you, but you might have to think like might have to think here for a bit, but when you were over there, what principles or what like how were you using jujitsu to kind of navigate those, even though it was a fun time, but it was also maybe uncertain, you know?
But yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think and uncertain in that sense and also uncertain with the interview.
Yeah.
When the interview was crazy, like yeah, whole like a lot of stress for sure. So I mean, man, it's jujitsu. It's all jujitsu. I would say reconnaissance is a huge one,
Oh
right?
yeah, taking
Because
data. Yep.
you know what I mean? And you're taking data everywhere.
Yeah.
Like because it's not true, right? But it's maybe to a certain extent, it's fair to say that all travel is not the same, but similar. Like it's not true that it's the same, but it's definitely similar in the sense that, airports are the same everywhere.
Hmm.
Cities have like some general differences, but also similar features. You know what I mean? So you're just taking data from past experiences and just kind of using it in completely different parts of the world, to like just make sure you're good. Like almost like a set checklist that applies to everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, of course, like keeping situational awareness. And then, you know, uh, these crazy situations just pop up sometimes. And that maybe it's a pivot principle, right? Like you can keep doing the same thing, but you just got to pivot and you got to take a moment and just figure out in the moment, like, all right, how do we go about this now? Or maybe acceptance principle, where it's like, all right, this is our situation right now. And it's like, let's just figure out how we go forward from this instead of trying to fight it. And then you're stuck even deeper, like in the web. It's just, yeah. So I think it's a lot of that and just general self awareness. Self awareness is good everywhere.
Yeah.
Smiling, just smiling, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Not being angry at people or rude to people and just being very open minded. That's going to serve you anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, for sure when these situations come up, you just roll with it, you know? Like what else can you do? And you
Yeah.
just figure it out.
Do you
Yeah.
do you find yourself to be pretty calm most of the time because of jujitsu and those, those principles that you mentioned? Because the outside looking in, you're always, you kind of have this persona where you're always happy, very easy go lucky, if you will. And I'm like, I know we're all human, so we kind of like we all face our own stresses, if you will. But I feel because of the training you've had and because you're surrounded by such great people and your family, you do you had do you carry this calm demeanor with you everywhere you go, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, of course I have my moments, where like maybe I'm not as calm as I should be. Um, but I think, yeah, I think it's because of jujitsu. Honestly, I think there's a side of it too where like, man, maybe even back as a kid, I felt like when I had my people and I had like my things I was doing, this is before jujitsu, like in let's say New Hampshire, I
Yeah.
felt like a happy-go-lucky kid back then too. Um, I think maybe I don't know, jiu-jitsu sparked it back, which is very nice. And then as obviously I've been doing that and continuing with that. And then, I met my wife and same thing, like she sparks it in other ways, right? So it's just I feel very grateful. I think I'm at a point in my life now where I really feel like I have everything I could ever need. And now it's just about maintaining it. Like I got to put in the effort to maintain my marriage, maintain the jujitsu I'm doing and the teaching, and maintain a solid relationship with my family and God, and just all these things. I'm just trying to maintain my life, um, and just keep pushing forward and trying to impact people in a positive way. But yeah, I think it definitely helps to have that jujitsu kind of mindset and confidence, and it definitely brings calmness because Henner says it all the time, right? It's like when we constantly put ourselves in worst case scenarios cease to exist. um I really do feel that, especially with the immigration battle. That was crazy. That was honestly like so life changing for me because I was always just raised and told, like, man, if you work hard enough, there's kind of like always a way,
Yeah.
or like if there's a will, there's a way. Like you can achieve anything. Like if it was impossible, nobody would do it. And I'm in this situation where I'm just trying to like get her home, and it felt impossible. It felt like there's just no way out. And like I'm trying to do everything you can imagine to just like get her home or to expedite the process. Like I'm emailing like the senators and the Congress people and the president. And, like I'm like emailing USCIS. I'm just going like everywhere I possibly could. And I got maybe a little bit of help in some places, but I didn't really get a lot of help.
Yeah.
Um, AI was my huge tool, but even then I was like, man, this is just I can't believe it. Like I'm doing everything I possibly can.
Yeah.
Um, and then to find that transfer situation, I was like, oh man, we did it, you know. So all these things, COVID, um, this immigration craziness, right? It, you have these big battles in life. I think everybody does.
Yeah.
You have these little ones too. And when you're in the middle of it, you're like, man, this is crazy. Like I don't know how I can handle this or how I can do that. But I truly believe nothing comes in life that we can't handle. And eventually you're going to get on the other side of it. It's just going to make you stronger. You're like, oh God, if I can do that, I can do anything. And I'm just excited to see what that next battle is in a way. But also, I want to enjoy the peace right now.
Yeah.
you know, yeah,
Dude, I love it. I love that you just said like there's nothing in life we can't handle. And
yeah,
that's so powerful. And it reminds me of something that I've learned that it could be your worst day at 9:30 a.m., but then at 12 o'clock, it could be your best day.
it's so
And it reminds me of when you posted that video of when you came back. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it took what 8 or 9 times, and then you finally got that email like this country can do it. Man, that's resilience right there.
100%.
Because most people would have gave up at one, two. I mean, maybe one they would have gave up, but man, like that's love, because you had so much, like your why was so big that it justified that no, let's just keep going, and a lot of that is jujitsu based, bro. That
100%.
that's crazy. Hey, before we go,
Yeah,
I think it would be wrong for me not to ask how has teaching the GSTs been, because you're rocking out the hoodies, right? So
yeah,
kind of going
yeah.
back to teaching adults, because now you're teaching law enforcement. Um, How'd you kind of get roped into that assignment, if you will? And like, where are you currently now, on the GST teaching ladder?
Yeah, for sure, man. It's been amazing. I felt like it kind of came to place when I started getting more confident in combatives, of course. I was kind of, it's the same thing. I was that annoying kid that would never leave. So when GST showed up, I'd be like, hey, I'm just gonna hang out. Like I'll just be here. I'll just hang out. And this was years ago. This is like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
over a decade ago. I'd just be the kid hanging out with these officers and just hanging out, helping where I can. And then yeah, fast forward to now, it's just been great. It's unbelievable. It's really cool when I can have, like military personnel and law enforcement come in because it's so connected to my family, like with my dad being Air Force, and then even his brother, my uncle, is a police officer in Connecticut. And then his son, my cousin, is also a police officer. And my little brothers try to do military too. So it's very it's very connected to the family, but jujitsu is my passion,
Yeah.
So to be able to have both mix where I can like teach jujitsu, my passion, to these guys that need it, it's like, man, it's very, very special to me. Um, and yeah, bro, it's been amazing. I right now, like, I'm just sticking to torrents for the most part, especially
Yeah.
because the past couple of years have been so travel heavy. But I'm like a number two on the courses here in Torrance, and maybe I'll travel out more soon. We'll see. But I'm happy even just having the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. And I think that's great because it's only going to further your knowledge of jujitsu and just kind of, as it already has, open up more connections and just, touch more lives, if you will, dude. No, that's great, man. Congratulations on, yeah, being able to teach GST. I know Howard's, he's on the road a lot and, he loves doing that. And there's such a strong cadre of instructors now. And, yeah, that's cool that you get to be a part of it. Man, Zach, listen, dude, it's been amazing having you on today's episode. I told you that it would go by super, super fast. We had the
Super
chance,
fast.
yeah, yeah, and we had a chance to really dive into your early career of starting at 13 or 14, or depending on how you want to frame that. But just, I think ultimately, just kind of the ups and downs, because the whole reason for this podcast is I want people to be able to share their story, but not just the wins. Because, I mean, yeah, it's great to hear success stories, but it kind of gets boring a little bit. I want to know, like, what took you from this, to that spot there. And then you spoke a little bit about your, kind of your insecurities about teaching and then having great mentors and Hedon and Henner and all the other instructors and even your training partners and just kind of pivoting, like you said, right? So using that principle that can carry on both on and off the mat. So, Zach, before we go, two things I want to ask. If there's anything that you could change about jujitsu, what would it be?
Yeah, that's a deep one. Anything I could change about jujitsu? I I don't know, because it's not changing jujitsu, it's changing society. Like I wish people had more of appreciation for self-defense. I
Yes.
really do. And um I wish people would have less reasons to quit, especially these days where
Mm.
it's like, it's just maybe tough times financially or, moving or just people trying to figure out life. I wish, yeah, people prioritized it more. People understood self defense more. And I think if that happened, we'd have a bunch of people being able to train for life, which would be awesome. Um, Not that like competition is bad or something, but yeah, man, more self defense, more people training for life. That'd be amazing to see. I think it'd make the world a better place. But that doesn't change jujitsu. So I don't know if I answered the question right.
No, you did. And yeah, thank you for that. And I love the way that you kind of pivoted off kind of life in a sense where people just had appreciation for what we do. Because it's easy to say, "Oh, I would change this. I would change the rules. I would change how people got promoted," which I've heard before. But no, like you gave a really sound response, meaning where you kind of embodied and encompassed everyone in that sense, and just kind of making it more exclusive, not just one particular um, groups of people, if you will. I love it, man. And then the last one, I always let my guests do this. Any shout outs that you want to give right now to anyone in your life up to this point? And I know that list might be long, but
Yeah.
who comes to mind right now that, you would love to shout out
Yeah, man. I mean, so many people, but of course I gotta start with my wife. Like, she's just amazing, dude. Like, yeah, nobody has any idea. I can't wait for like more people to meet her and just be around her.
Yeah.
And the support she's given me over the years, like even with just the distance and also the jujitsu. Like, she's so team jujitsu. Like, people don't even realize it. It's amazing. And of course, like my parents, I wouldn't even have done jujitsu without my parents or life without my parents. Like, it's just they're great parents. I got very lucky and blessed there. Um, yeah, Henner, Hedon, Alex, Sam,
Hmm.
Bobby, the whole team, every instructor at GU. Like, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. I can't do it without those guys, man. Like, it's just there's no shot. Um, and yeah, I guess I'm just very grateful to God. I feel so blessed. Um, and just yeah, man, we can't thank God enough. 100%. And man, thank you, bro, for the podcast, for putting all this together. You know what I mean? Like, this is a really cool thing you're doing. Um, I think like, you know, what's the point of life if we're not trying to have positive impact? You know what I mean? That's kind of where I'm at right now these days. Um, Everything I'm doing, I'm just trying to be the best I can be at what I'm doing, but also like, man, I really want to have a positive impact on as many people as I can, whether it's like a short amount of time or a long amount of time, like just depending on who the person is. But I feel like things like this, like what you're doing and this mission and Kumite lifestyle and stuff, it's positive impact, bro. So like we need more of that in the world. And I appreciate you, brother. I'm honored to be on.
Thank you, man. And I'm honored to have you on today as well. And yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's man, it was great. It's a nice, heartfelt, sincere message to kind of close this off. Zach, again, thank you so much, brother, for being on today's podcast episode. And for those watching, Zach, where can people find your social networking or anywhere if they want to get maybe in touch with you or, or maybe even visit Grace University?
Yeah, yeah. So my Instagram, I guess, is easiest. It's Zac Cunningham 13. And then it's weird though, Instagram. I don't know. I feel like people tell me they message me all the time. I never see it. So I don't know what the deal is with that. I'm like so sorry if you're listening to this and you're one of those people. It's not personal. But man, maybe just email. You could always email me at like Zach@GracieUniversity.com if you need to contact me or any questions about like jujitsu or your journey or whatever. Man, I would love to help. Um, and Grace University, I'm always there. Torrance, California. Um, yeah, you can find me there for sure.
I love it. And yeah, guys, if you ever get a chance to meet Zach, I would highly, highly recommend it, whether it's through social media to kind of see him on your screen or on the big green mats out in Torrance, or maybe, just maybe, might see him in Thailand again. So
It's all right.
that's very cool. Zach, thank you so much for your time again. It was an honor to have you on the Kumite Lifestyle Podcast, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day today.
Thank you, brother. You too. Take care.
Absolutely.